The stagecoach deposited Zara Finch at the edge of Winnemucca, Nevada, on a blistering August afternoon in 1878, and within 3 hours, every respectable woman in town knew exactly what kind of woman she was and wanted nothing to do with her. She stepped down from the coach with only a weathered carpet bag and a letter from her aunt, now 6 months dead, which had promised her a fresh start and a place to stay above the general store. The driver barely looked at her as he tossed down her bag, and the way his eyes slid away told her everything. Someone had talked. Someone always talked. Winnemucca sprawled along the Humboldt River, a dusty collection of wooden buildings and false-fronted stores that serviced the ranchers, miners, and railroad workers passing through. The main street bustled with activity as Zara walked toward the general store, her worn boots kicking up small clouds of dust with each step. Men paused in their conversations to stare. Women gathered their skirts and turned away, whispering behind gloved hands. Zara kept her chin high, though her stomach twisted with familiar dread. She had hoped Nevada would be different. She had prayed that 1,000 miles would be enough distance from San Francisco, and the life she had been forced into at 16, when her parents died and left her with nothing but debts and a world that did not care what happened to orphaned girls. The general store sat at the corner of Bridge Street and Main, a solid 2-story building with glass windows that reflected the harsh sunlight. A bell chimed as she pushed through the door, and the conversations inside died instantly. 3 women stood at the counter examining fabric. They looked up in unison, their expressions shifting from curiosity to cold judgment in seconds. "Can I help you?" The man behind the counter was thin and weathered, with spectacles perched on a narrow nose. His tone suggested he would rather help a rattlesnake. "I am Zara Finch. I believe my Aunt Marion Fletcher arranged for me to stay in the room upstairs. She wrote to me several months ago." The man's face tightened. "Miss Fletcher passed on in February. Heart gave out." He paused, adjusting his spectacles. "She did mention a niece, but that was before we knew about your circumstances." One of the women at the counter gasped softly. Another gathered her packages and hurried toward the door, giving Zara a wide berth as if sin was contagious. "My circumstances," Zara repeated, her voice steady despite the heat rising to her cheeks. "And what circumstances would those be? We are decent people here, Miss Finch. We do not need your sort bringing trouble to our town. Mrs. Patterson wrote ahead from San Francisco. She thought we should know what kind of person was coming." Zara's hands clenched around the handle of her carpetbag. Mrs. Patterson, the banker's wife, who had visited the house where Zara had worked and seemed kind enough until her husband's indiscretions came to light. Then suddenly everything was the fault of the women who worked there, not the men who paid for their time. "I left that life," Zara said quietly. "I am starting over." "You cannot start over here." The storekeeper crossed his arms. "We have standards to maintain." "I suggest you get back on the next stage heading out." The remaining women nodded their agreement, their faces hard with righteous certainty. Zara wanted to scream at them, to ask where their Christian charity was, to demand they tell her what a 16-year-old girl with no money and no family was supposed to have done. Instead, she turned and walked out, the bell chiming mockingly behind her. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly as she stood on the wooden sidewalk, trying to decide what to do. The next stage would not come through for 3 days. She had $17 to her name, and every boarding house in town would likely turn her away once they knew who she was. "You look like you could use a drink." Zara turned to find a woman in her 40s standing in the doorway of the saloon next door. She wore a practical calico dress and had kind eyes that crinkled at the corners. "I do not have much money," Zara admitted. "First one is free for newcomers." "I am Dorothy and I run this establishment. Saw you arrive. Also saw the welcome committee give you the Winnemucca freeze." She gestured inside. "Come on. It is cooler in here at least." The saloon was dim and smelled of tobacco and whiskey. A few men sat at tables playing cards and a bartender polished glasses behind a long wooden bar. Dorothy led Zara to a table in the corner and poured 2 glasses of water from a pitcher. "Thank you," Zara said, drinking gratefully. "So they already know," Dorothy said, not making it a question. Zara nodded. "A woman from San Francisco rode ahead. She made sure they would know what I was." "What you were," Dorothy corrected gently. "That is past tense, is it not? I have been out of that life for 8 months. I worked in a laundry, saved every penny and waited for my aunt's letter telling me to come. But she died before I could get here." Dorothy leaned back in her chair, studying her. "This town can be hard on women with pasts. The men are hypocrites, of course. Half of them visit the places you are trying to leave behind whenever they go to Carson City or Reno. But their wives rule the social order here, and they do not forget or forgive." "Then I will leave," Zara said, trying to keep the defeat from her voice. "I just need to wait for the next stage." "Where will you go?" Zara had no answer. She had pinned all her hopes on Winnemucca, on her aunt, on the possibility of becoming someone new in a place where no one knew her. She had been foolish. "Tell you what," Dorothy said, "I need help here. Serving drinks, keeping the tables clean, cooking meals. Nothing else," she added firmly. "I run a respectable saloon. No girls upstairs, no private rooms. Just drinks and cards and the occasional brawl when the cowboys get too drunk. I can pay you room and board plus $3 a week." "You would hire me, even knowing what I was, especially knowing. You understand how hard life can be for a woman in this world. That makes you less likely to judge others and more likely to work hard for a real chance." Dorothy extended her hand. "What do you say?" Zara shook it, feeling tears prick her eyes. "Thank you. I will not disappoint you." "I know you will not. Come on, I will show you your room." The room above the saloon was small but clean, with a real bed, a washstand, and a window overlooking the street. Zara set down her carpetbag and sat on the edge of the bed, letting herself feel the wave of exhaustion that had been building since she left San Francisco. She had survived today. Tomorrow she would prove she deserved a second chance. Vincent Rawley rode into Winnemucca 3 days after Zara arrived, leading a string of 5 horses he had broken and trained on his ranch 30 miles north. He was 26 years old, tall and lean with dark hair that needed cutting and eyes the color of creek water in summer. His father had been a horse trainer, and his father before him, and Vincent had inherited their gift for understanding what a horse needed before it knew itself. He delivered the horses to the livery stable and collected his payment, then headed to the saloon for a drink and a meal before the long ride home. Dorothy greeted him with her usual warm smile. "Vincent Rawley, as I live and breathe. How is that ranch of yours?" "Thriving, thanks to you sending customers my way," he said, settling onto a stool at the bar. "I have more orders than I can fill." "That is because you are the best horse trainer in 3 counties and everyone knows it." Dorothy reached for a bottle. "The usual, please. And whatever food you have cooking, I am starving. I will bring you a plate. Got a new girl helping out. She is a good cook." Dorothy poured his whiskey and disappeared into the back. Vincent sipped his drink and watched the saloon's activity. A group of miners argued good-naturedly over a card game. 2 cowboys from the Lazy J Ranch nursed beers in the corner. Everything was familiar and comfortable, the way Winnemucca always felt to him. He had been born in California but came to Nevada with his parents when he was 10. This high desert country was home now, with its endless sky and honest people. A young woman emerged from the kitchen carrying a plate of steak and potatoes. She moved carefully through the room, and Vincent noticed how the miners fell silent as she passed, their eyes following her with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. She set the plate in front of him with a small smile. "Dorothy said you were hungry. There is more if you want it." "Thank you, miss," Vincent said. "This looks perfect." She had dark auburn hair pulled back in a practical bun and striking green eyes that held both wariness and strength. There was something about the set of her shoulders, the way she held herself ready to defend or flee, that spoke of hard experience. "Are you new in town?" he asked, trying to sound friendly rather than nosy. "Yes. I arrived a few days ago." Her tone was polite but guarded. "Let me know if you need anything else." She retreated to the kitchen before he could say more. One of the miners, a burly man named Chuck who drank too much and thought too little, called out loudly enough for half the room to hear. "That is the whore from San Francisco. Can you believe Dorothy hired her? What is this town coming to?" Vincent's hand tightened around his fork. The young woman had frozen in the kitchen doorway, her back rigid. Dorothy appeared from behind the bar, her face flushed with anger. "Chuck Mercer, you shut your mouth or get out of my establishment. Zara works for me, and I will not have customers disrespecting my staff." "I am just saying what everyone knows," Chuck said, but he had the grace to look embarrassed. "My wife heard it from Mrs. Patterson's letter." "What everyone thinks they know," Dorothy corrected sharply. "And it is none of your business regardless. Now apologize or leave." Chuck mumbled something that might have been an apology and turned back to his cards. The young woman, Zara, disappeared into the kitchen. Vincent felt anger simmering in his chest. He had seen this before in cattle towns and mining camps. The way people tore down women who had made choices or had choices forced on them, while the men who participated faced no judgment at all. He finished his meal quickly and approached Dorothy at the bar. "I will pay for dinner and the drink." "Your money is always good here, Vincent." Dorothy counted out his change, then leaned in close. "She is a good girl trying to start over. The town is making it hard. I could tell." Vincent pocketed his change. "If she needs anything, you let me know. I will help if I can." Dorothy smiled. "You are a good man, Vincent Rawley. Your mother raised you right." Vincent tipped his hat and headed for the door, but not before glancing toward the kitchen. He caught a glimpse of Zara standing by the stove, her shoulders slumped in a posture of defeat. Something in his chest tightened. He wanted to tell her it would get better, that not everyone in Winnemucca was small-minded and cruel. But he did not know her, and his words might only make things worse. The ride back to his ranch gave him plenty of time to think. The sun was setting, painting the desert in shades of orange and purple that took his breath away every time. He thought about his mother, who had died 2 years ago from pneumonia. She had always said that how you treated people when they were down showed your true character. His father, gone 5 years now from a kick to the head by a spooked stallion, had been quieter but lived by the same principle. Vincent had built his horse training business through hard work and fair dealing. He treated every customer honestly, whether they were wealthy ranchers or struggling homesteaders. He never cheated on weight or quality, and he stood behind every animal he sold. It had earned him a reputation and a comfortable living. His ranch was small but profitable, and he employed 2 men to help with the breaking and training. But as he rode through the twilight, it was not his business he thought about. It was green eyes full of old pain, and a young woman trying to survive in a town that had already condemned her. The next few weeks established a pattern for Zara. She worked hard at the saloon, arriving early to help Dorothy with cooking and staying late to clean up after the evening crowd. She served drinks and meals with quiet efficiency, and when men made crude comments, she learned to ignore them or deflect with a neutral smile. Dorothy protected her fiercely, throwing out anyone who got too offensive, but Zara knew her employer could not shield her from everything. The women of Winnemucca remained implacable in their rejection. When Zara tried to shop at the general store, the owner served her but made clear she was not welcome to linger. At the dry goods store, the proprietor's wife literally turned her back when Zara entered. The church was out of the question. Zara had tried attending services her second Sunday in town, and the minister's wife had asked her to leave before the sermon began. "We cannot have you here," she had said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "You understand. The children, you know." Zara had left without argument, her face burning. She understood that in their eyes she would always be tainted, always be the thing they feared their husbands might want and their daughters might become. No amount of hard work or good behavior would change their minds. But she kept going because the alternative was giving up, and she had not survived this long to give up now. Vincent came to town every week or two, always stopping at Dorothy's saloon for a meal and a drink. He was unfailingly polite to Zara, treating her with the same respectful courtesy he showed Dorothy or any other woman. It was such a small thing, but after weeks of being treated like she carried plague, his simple kindness meant more than he could know. "How is the ranch?" she asked one evening as she brought him dinner. "Busy. I have got 6 horses in training right now and 3 more coming next week. One of them is a beautiful paint mare, smartest horse I have worked with in years." His face lit up when he talked about his work. "She learns faster than I can teach." "That must be wonderful, working with animals like that." Zara set down his plate. "I grew up in San Francisco. I never spent much time around horses. You should come out to the ranch sometime. I could teach you to ride properly." The invitation was casual, but his eyes were warm. Zara hesitated. "I do not think that would be appropriate." "Why not? I teach lots of people to ride. Ranchers send their children to me all the time. I am not a child, and you know why it would cause talk." She glanced around the saloon, aware of how many ears were always listening. "You have a reputation to protect." Vincent leaned forward, his voice dropping. "I do not care what people say if I am doing something right, and teaching someone to ride is just being neighborly. You are kind to offer, but no thank you." Zara moved away before he could press further. She could not afford to get close to anyone, especially not a man as decent as Vincent Rawley. She would only bring trouble to him, but Vincent did not give up easily. The next time he came to town, he brought Dorothy a side of beef from a steer he had butchered and stayed to help carry it to the saloon's ice house. When Zara came out to help, he engaged her in conversation about the weather, about a book he was reading, about anything that kept her talking. His persistence was gentle, never pushy, and despite her better judgment, Zara found herself looking forward to his visits. One Saturday evening in late September, trouble arrived in the form of Gerald Foster and his friends. Foster was the son of the biggest rancher in the county, a young man of 24 who believed his father's money and influence made him untouchable. He and 3 companions came into the saloon already half drunk, loud and looking for entertainment. Zara was serving a table of railroad workers when Foster grabbed her arm as she passed. "Well, if it is not the famous Miss Finch, I heard you were friendly for the right price. Let go of me, please." Zara kept her voice steady, though her heart hammered. "Come on, sweetheart. You used to be hospitable. What has changed?" Foster's friends laughed, and his grip tightened. "My money is as good as anyone's. I work for Dorothy serving drinks, that is all. Now please release my arm." "Maybe I do not want to." Foster pulled her closer, his breath sour with whiskey. "Maybe I think you need to remember your place." Dorothy appeared like an avenging angel, a heavy iron skillet in her hand. "Gerald Foster, you let go of my employee right now, or I will crack your skull so hard your daddy will hear it from his ranch." Foster released Zara with a shove that sent her stumbling. "You are protecting a whore. That is rich. I am protecting a woman who works for me from a drunk fool who thinks he can manhandle my staff. Get out. You are not welcome here." "My father owns half this town," Foster snarled. "Your father does not own me, and you are still leaving. Now." Dorothy raised the skillet meaningfully. Foster and his friends retreated, hurling insults over their shoulders. The saloon had gone silent, every eye on Zara. She could feel the judgment, the assumption that somehow she had invited the trouble. Her face burned as she hurried to the kitchen. Dorothy followed, setting down the skillet with a heavy clang. "Are you all right?" "I am fine." Zara's voice shook despite her efforts to control it. "Thank you for intervening. That boy has always been worthless, too much money and too few brains." Dorothy put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You did nothing wrong, I know, but they will say I did anyway." Zara fought back tears of frustration. "I thought I could make this work. But maybe I was fooling myself." "You are making it work. You have been here over a month, you work harder than anyone I have ever employed, and you have not let this town's nastiness break you. That is succeeding." Zara wanted to believe her, but as she lay in bed that night, listening to the sounds of the town settling into sleep, she wondered how long she could endure. Every day was a battle against judgment and isolation. She had no friends besides Dorothy. She could not attend church or social gatherings. Even walking down the street invited whispers and stares. She thought about Vincent Rawley and his kind eyes, his casual invitation to visit his ranch. She thought about how nice it had been to have someone talk to her like she was a normal person with interests and thoughts worth hearing. And she thought about how dangerous it would be to let herself hope for anything more. October brought cooler weather and shipping season for the cattle ranches. Winnemucca swelled with temporary workers, drovers, and buyers. The saloon stayed busy from noon until midnight, and Zara barely had time to think, let alone worry about her reputation. Dorothy hired an additional girl to help with the rush, a cheerful widow named Beth who treated Zara like a regular co-worker and ignored the gossip entirely. Vincent came to town in the middle of the month to deliver 3 trained horses to a cattle buyer and stayed longer than usual. He sat at the bar nursing a single whiskey while the saloon bustled around him, and Zara was aware of his eyes following her as she worked. It should have made her uncomfortable, but instead she felt something warm unfurl in her chest. During a brief lull, she approached with a pot of coffee. "You look tired. Would you like something to eat?" "I would love that. Anything Dorothy is cooking will be better than my attempts." He smiled, and Zara noticed for the first time the way his whole face transformed, becoming younger and more open. "How have you been? I heard Gerald Foster caused trouble." "Word travels fast." Zara poured him coffee. "Dorothy handled it. She has been very good to me. Dorothy is solid. But I worry about you dealing with people like Foster." Vincent wrapped his hands around the coffee cup. "His type think money makes them immune to consequences. I have dealt with worse." The words slipped out before Zara could stop them. She saw Vincent's expression shift, sympathy replacing curiosity. "I imagine you have. That does not make it right." Zara found herself wanting to tell him everything, how she had been 16 and alone when the brothel owner found her sleeping in an alley. How she had been told she was lucky to have a roof over her head and food in her stomach, even if the price was selling herself to strangers. How she had hated every moment but saw no way out until a client with a guilty conscience helped her get work at a laundry and loaned her money for a fresh start. But she did not say any of that. Instead, she just nodded. I should get your dinner. Zara, wait. Vincent's hand moved as if to touch her arm but stopped short. I meant what I said about visiting the ranch. I would like you to come out sometime. See the horses, learn to ride if you want, or just have a place to go that is not here or your room. No strings, no expectations. Just an offer of friendship. Why? The question burst out of her. Why would you risk your reputation on me? You must know what people say. I know what small-minded people say. I also know what I see, which is a woman working hard and trying her best in a town that will not give her a chance. I was raised to help people, not judge them, and honestly, I like talking to you. You are interesting and you have kind eyes, even if you have learned to hide behind them. Zara's throat tightened with emotion. You do not know me. Then let me get to know you. Vincent's voice was gentle but determined. Come out next Sunday. Dorothy can spare you for an afternoon. I promise everything will be respectable and proper. My ranch hands will be there working. You will be perfectly safe. I know I would be safe, Zara said quietly. That is not what worries me. I worry about what this will cost you. Let me worry about that. Vincent smiled again. Please say yes. Against her better judgment, against every instinct that screamed she should protect this man from her poisonous reputation, Zara nodded. All right, Sunday afternoon. His smile widened into a grin that made her heart skip. I will come fetch you around noon. Thank you, Zara. She retreated to the kitchen, her hands trembling slightly as she prepared his meal. Dorothy caught her eye and raised an eyebrow questioningly, but Zara just shook her head. She would explain later. For now, she needed to process the fact that she had just agreed to spend time with Vincent Rawley outside the safety of the saloon, where the whole town could see and judge. She was either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Time would tell which. Sunday dawned clear and cool, the sky that particular shade of blue that only appeared in the high desert autumn. Zara dressed carefully in her best dress, a simple gray cotton that was clean and mended but showed its age. She had washed her hair the night before, and it fell in soft waves around her shoulders before she pinned it up. Dorothy watched her preparations with approval. You look lovely, and do not worry about work. Beth and I can handle the Sunday crowd. Are you sure? I feel like I am abandoning you. You are taking one afternoon for yourself. The world will not end. Dorothy squeezed her hand. Vincent is a good man. He will treat you right. That is what worries me, Zara admitted. I do not want to damage his reputation. Honey, Vincent makes his own choices. He knows what he is doing. Now go have fun. Ride a horse, see the desert, forget about this town for a few hours. Vincent arrived precisely at noon, driving a wagon with a gentle bay mare in the traces. He helped Zara up to the seat with easy courtesy, and they headed north out of town. Zara was acutely aware of the stares from townspeople on the street, the way conversations stopped as they passed. Mrs. Patterson stood outside the church, her face pinched with disapproval. Do not look at them, Vincent said quietly. Look ahead. Zara fixed her eyes on the road leading out of Winnemucca toward the open country. Once they left the town behind, she felt some of the tension drain from her shoulders. Better, Vincent asked. Much better, thank you. The ride to Vincent's ranch took almost an hour, following the river north before cutting east into rolling hills dotted with sage and occasional juniper trees. Vincent kept up an easy conversation, pointing out landmarks and telling stories about the area. He talked about the harsh winter 2 years ago that killed half his herd and how he had slowly built back up. He described the satisfaction of working with a difficult horse and finally earning its trust. It is like solving a puzzle, he said, his hands relaxed on the reins. Every horse is different. Some respond to gentle encouragement, others need firm boundaries. You have to learn to read them, Understand what they are telling you with their body and behavior. It sounds like you truly love what you do, Zara said. I cannot imagine doing anything else. My father used to say that working with horses keeps you honest. They do not care about your words or promises. They care about your actions and your heart. Vincent glanced at her. I think people should be more like that. People are complicated. Maybe, but the basics are the same. Actions matter more than reputation. What you do today matters more than what you did yesterday. Zara wondered if he knew how much she needed to hear that. The ranch appeared as they crested a low hill. A solid log house sat beside a creek, with a barn, corral, and several outbuildings clustered nearby. The setting was beautiful in its simplicity, surrounded by hills that glowed golden in the afternoon sun. 3 horses grazed in a meadow behind the house, and Zara could see 2 men working near the barn. "This is yours?" she asked. "All mine." "Well, mine in the banks until I finish paying off the loan, but I am close." Pride colored his voice. "My father started this place. When he died, I took over. It has been hard work, but worth it." Vincent helped her down from the wagon and introduced her to his 2 ranch hands, Tom and Jimmy. Both young men tipped their hats politely and did not seem to recognize or care about her reputation. They went back to work as Vincent led Zara to the corral where 3 horses watched with pricked ears. "This is Scout, Dancer, and the paint mare I told you about, Sky." Vincent climbed the fence and the paint approached immediately, nickering softly. "She is special. Sold her to a rancher down in Elko, and I am training her before delivery." Zara watched as Vincent stroked the mare's neck, his touch confident and gentle. The horse leaned into him, clearly trusting him completely. There was something beautiful in the connection between man and animal, something pure that made her chest ache with longing for that kind of uncomplicated trust. "Come meet her," Vincent said. "She is gentle as a lamb despite looking wild." Zara climbed the fence carefully, aware of how little she knew about horses. Sky regarded her with intelligent dark eyes, ears swiveling to track every movement. "Hold out your hand flat, let her smell you," Vincent instructed. "That is it. Nice and easy." The horse's breath was warm against her palm. Then Sky bumped her nose against Zara's hand, gentle and curious. Zara laughed, surprised by the contact. "She likes you," Vincent said, moving to stand beside Zara. He was close enough that she could smell sage and leather and something clean that was just him. "Would you like to try riding her? I have never really ridden before, just in wagons and the stage coach. Then it is time you learned. Every person in Nevada should know how to ride." Vincent grinned. "Come on, I promise you will love it." He was patient as he taught her, explaining how to approach the horse, where to place her foot in the stirrup, how to settle into the saddle. The world looked different from horseback, higher and more open. Vincent adjusted the stirrups to fit her legs and handed her the reins. "Just hold them gentle. Sky knows what to do. I will lead her around the corral a few times so you can get the feel." They walked slowly, Vincent's hand on Sky's bridle, and Zara focused on relaxing into the horse's movement. After several circuits, she started to understand the rhythm, how her body could move with the animal rather than against it. "You are a natural," Vincent said approvingly. "Want to try on your own?" Fear and exhilaration warred in her chest. "What if I fall?" "Then you fall. The ground is not so far and the dirt is soft." His eyes crinkled with amusement. "But you will not fall. Sky will take care of you." Vincent released the bridle and stepped back. Zara sat alone on the horse, the reins in her hands, and for the first time in months, she felt something like freedom. She pressed her heels gently against Sky's sides the way Vincent had shown her, and the horse walked forward. They made a slow circuit of the corral, and Zara's confidence grew with each step. "I am doing it," she called to Vincent. unable to keep the joy from her voice. "You are doing great." He leaned against the fence, watching with obvious pleasure. They spent the next hour with the horses. Vincent let Zara practice while he worked with one of the other horses, always keeping one eye on her progress. When she finally dismounted, her legs were shaky and her back ached, but she felt more alive than she had in years. "Thank you," she said as Vincent led Skye back to the small pasture. "That was wonderful. You are welcome, and you can come back any time. I meant what I said about that." Vincent latched the gate and turned to face her. "I enjoy your company, Zara. I would like us to be friends." "Friends," she repeated, trying to ignore the small pang of disappointment. Of course he meant friends. What else could he mean? A man like Vincent Rawley would never want more with someone like her. "Unless you would rather not," Vincent said, misreading her hesitation. "No, I would like that. I just do not want to cause problems for you." "You will not. Come on, I will make us some coffee and we can sit on the porch." "I want to hear about San Francisco. I have only been there once when I was a boy." The house was tidy and simply furnished, with a stone fireplace and sturdy furniture that looked handmade. Vincent prepared coffee while Zara looked at the photographs on the mantel. A stern-faced couple stared out from one frame, and she guessed they were his parents. "They look formidable," she said when Vincent emerged with 2 cups. "My mother was. My father was actually quite gentle, but he had one of those faces that looked angry even when he was not." Vincent handed her a cup and gestured to the porch. "They were good people. I miss them both." They settled into chairs overlooking the creek, sipping coffee and talking as the afternoon stretched into evening. Zara found herself telling Vincent about her childhood in San Francisco before her parents died, about her father who worked at the docks, and her mother who took in sewing. She described the small apartment that always smelled like her mother's vegetable soup, and the way her father would sing Irish songs on Saturday nights. "They sound wonderful," Vincent said. "They were. Then a warehouse accident killed my father and my mother got sick with grief. She died 6 months later. I was 16 and had nothing." Zara stared into her coffee cup. "I tried to find work, but no one wants to hire a girl with no references and no skills. I lived on the street for 2 weeks before Mrs. Chen found me." "Is that the woman who ran the brothel?" "Yes. She told me I was lucky she found me before someone worse did, and maybe she was right. She fed me and gave me a room. All I had to do was be nice to the men who paid." Zara's voice hardened. "It seemed like a fair trade at the time. I did not understand what I was giving up." Vincent was quiet for a long moment. "How long?" 4 years. 4 years of hating myself, hating them, hating everything. Then one night a client, a banker named Mr. Thornton, asked me what I would do if I could do anything. I told him I would leave and never come back. He helped me. Got me work at a laundry his wife's family owned, loaned me money for a fresh start. He said he had daughters and could not bear the thought of them trapped that way. Zara looked at Vincent, needing him to understand. "I worked 8 months, saved every penny and wrote to my aunt. She was my mother's sister and we had lost touch. She invited me here. Said she had a place for me and Winnemucca was far enough that I could start over. But she died before I arrived and someone made sure the whole town knew what I was." "What you were," Vincent corrected gently. "You left that life. You should get credit for that. The world does not work that way for women. You know that. Maybe it should." Vincent set down his coffee cup and turned to face her fully. "Zara, I do not care what you did to survive. I care about who you are now. And from what I have seen, you are brave and hardworking and kind despite having every reason to be bitter. That is what matters to me." Zara felt tears prick her eyes. "You do not know how much I needed to hear that." "Then I am glad I said it." Vincent reached over and took her hand, his calloused palm warm against hers. "You have a friend in me, Zara Finch. Whatever the town says, whatever trouble comes, I am on your side." The sun was setting by the time Vincent drove Zara back to Winnemucca. They rode in comfortable silence, both tired and content. When they reached the saloon, Vincent helped her down from the wagon. "Thank you for today," Zara said. "It meant more than you know. Can I come by this week? Take you to dinner somewhere?" "Vincent, I cannot go to the restaurants in town. They will not serve me, or if they do, it will cause a scene. Then I will bring a picnic and we can go outside town, somewhere pretty where nobody will bother us." He smiled hopefully. "Say yes." Zara knew she should refuse. Every moment she spent with Vincent put his reputation at risk, but she was selfish enough to want more of the warmth and acceptance he offered. "Yes." His face lit up. "Thursday evening, I will pick you up at 6. Over the next month, Vincent courted Zara with a determination that would have been alarming if it had not been so endearing. True to his word, he appeared every Thursday evening and sometimes on Sundays, always with some plan for an outing outside town. They had picnics by the river, rode horses through the hills, and once spent an entire afternoon sitting on a rock outcropping while Vincent taught her the names of the mountains visible in every direction. Dorothy watched with approval, though she warned Zara to be careful. "That man is falling in love with you, whether he realizes it yet or not. You need to decide if you feel the same and if you are ready for what that means." "What does it mean?" Zara asked, though she suspected she knew. "It means making a life together in a town that still judges you. It means Vincent facing rejection from people he has known his whole life. It means fighting for your relationship every day until people finally accept it, if they ever do." Dorothy refilled her coffee cup. "I am not saying you should not pursue it. I am saying you both need to go in with your eyes open." Zara already knew her own feelings. She had fallen for Vincent's kindness first, then his steady presence, and finally for the man himself. She loved the way he talked about his horses with such passion, the way he listened when she spoke like her words mattered, the way he made her laugh with stories about his ranch hands' antics. She loved his integrity and his refusal to bow to the town's judgment. But she did not know if she had the right to let him risk everything for her. The decision was taken out of her hands in early December, when Gerald Foster returned to the saloon with his friends and too much whiskey in his system. Zara had just finished serving a table of minors when Foster blocked her path. Well, heard you have been spreading your attention around. How much does Rawley pay for your services? Excuse me." Zara tried to move past him, but Foster grabbed her wrist. "I am talking to you. You ignored me before, but I am a paying customer. That means you have to be nice to me. I am a waitress, nothing more. Let go." Zara's voice was firm despite her racing heart. "Maybe I do not believe you. Maybe I think once a whore, always a whore." Foster pulled her closer, his other hand reaching for her waist. The sound of a chair scraping back cut through the saloon noise. Vincent stood near the bar, his face dark with anger. "Take your hands off her, now." "This is none of your business, Rawley." Foster's grip tightened. "It became my business when you put your hands on someone who told you no." Vincent crossed the room with 3 long strides. "Release her, or I will make you." Foster shoved Zara away and turned to face Vincent. "You want to fight over the town whore? Fine by me." Vincent's fist connected with Foster's jaw before anyone could intervene. Foster staggered back, more surprised than hurt. His friends jumped up, but Dorothy was already there with her skillet and a warning look. "Take it outside if you are going to brawl, but I suspect this is already finished." Dorothy positioned herself between the groups. "Foster, you leave and do not come back. I've told you before about respecting my staff." Foster wiped blood from his split lip. his eyes blazing with humiliation and rage. "You will regret this, Rawley. You and your whore both. My father will hear about this. I am sure he will. Now get out." Vincent flexed his bruised hand, watching as Foster and his friends retreated. The saloon remained silent for a long moment. Then slowly conversations resumed, though Zara could feel the weight of everyone's attention. She stood frozen, torn between gratitude and horror at what Vincent had just done. Dorothy touched her arm gently. "Go upstairs, honey. Take the rest of the night off. I will handle things down here." Zara fled to her room, her hands shaking as she closed the door. She sank onto the bed and pressed her palms against her eyes. Vincent had hit Gerald Foster for her. He had publicly defended her honor, such as it was. The news would be all over town by morning. Whatever reputation Vincent had built would be damaged, possibly destroyed. A soft knock came at her door. "Zara, it is Vincent. Can I come in?" She should say no. She should send him away and end whatever was growing between them before it cost him everything. But she opened the door. Vincent stood in the hallway, his knuckles red and swelling. "Are you all right?" "I am fine. He did not hurt me. But Vincent, what you did, I would do it again." Vincent stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. "I am sorry, but I could not stand there and watch him treat you that way. You do not understand what this will cost you. Gerald Foster's father is one of the most powerful men in the county. And now the whole town knows you defended me. They will say things, terrible things. Let them talk. I do not care." Vincent took her hands in his, gentle despite his bruised knuckles. "Zara, I should have said this weeks ago. I am not spending time with you because I pity you or because I want to prove something to the town. I am spending time with you because I have feelings for you. Real feelings that get stronger every time I see you." Zara's breath caught. "Vincent, I know you have given me every reason to stay away. I know you think you are protecting me, but I am a grown man and I make my own choices. I choose you, if you will have me. You deserve someone without a past, someone the town respects. Someone who can give you the life you have worked so hard to build. I deserve someone who makes me want to be better, someone who makes me laugh and challenges me and sees the world with clear eyes. That is you, Zara, only you." Vincent's thumbs rubbed gentle circles on her hands. "I am in love with you, have been for weeks. I just did not know if you felt the same." "I do," Zara whispered. "I tried not to, but I do. I love you, Vincent, but I am terrified of what loving me will cost you. Then we will face that cost together." Vincent pulled her close, and Zara let herself lean into his solid warmth. "I am not afraid of this town or what they think. Are you?" Zara thought about the past months of isolation and judgment. She thought about Dorothy's friendship and Vincent's steady presence. She thought about how she had survived worse than Winnemucca gossip and came out the other side. "No, not anymore." Vincent tilted her face up and kissed her, gentle and careful, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. But Zara did not want to pull away. She kissed him back, pouring months of loneliness and hope into the contact. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. "I should probably go before Dorothy comes looking," Vincent said with a rueful smile. "But I am coming back tomorrow, and the day after that, and every day until everyone in this town knows you are mine and I am yours. That is going to cause even more talk. Good. Let them talk themselves hoarse. I love you, Zara Finch, and I intend to marry you if you will have me." Zara's heart soared even as her practical side whispered warnings. "Ask me again when you have had time to think about it without anger clouding your judgment. My judgment is perfectly clear, but I will ask again and again until you say yes." Vincent kissed her forehead and headed for the door. "Lock this behind me. I will see you tomorrow." After he left, Zara did lock the door, then stood with her back against it, her fingers touching her lips where he had kissed her. Vincent Rawley loved her. He wanted to marry her. The thought was terrifying and wonderful in equal measure. Dorothy proved prophetic. By the next morning, all of Winnemucca knew about the altercation at the saloon. More importantly, they knew that Vincent Rawley had defended Zara Finch and called her someone who mattered to him. The gossip spread like wildfire. Vincent arrived at noon with flowers he had bought from the dry goods store, ignoring the proprietor's disapproving sniff. He presented them to Zara in full view of the lunch crowd at the saloon, then sat at the bar and ordered dinner like nothing was unusual. "You are making a statement," Dorothy observed, setting down his whiskey. "I suppose I am." Vincent did not take his eyes off Zara as she moved through the room. "I want everyone to know where I stand. They know. The question is what they will do about it." What they did, initially, was nothing. For 3 days, Vincent courted Zara publicly, eating every meal at the saloon, picking her up in his wagon for evening rides, making it clear to anyone watching that his intentions were serious. The town watched and whispered but took no direct action. Then on the 4th day, Vincent went to the bank to make his monthly mortgage payment and found the bank president, Howard Foster Gerald's father, waiting for him. "Vincent, come into my office, please." Foster's tone was cordial, but his eyes were cold. Vincent followed him into the private office, already knowing what was coming. Foster settled behind his massive desk and steepled his fingers. "I hear you have been keeping company with a woman of questionable reputation." "I have been courting Zara Finch, if that is what you mean." "That is exactly what I mean. My son tells me you assaulted him over this woman." "Your son assaulted Miss Finch and I stopped him. That is different." Vincent kept his voice level. "Is there a point to this conversation? The point is that I am concerned about your judgment. The bank has a significant investment in your ranch. We need to know you are making sound decisions. My personal life has nothing to do with my business. I have never missed a payment. My operation is profitable and growing. For now, but I worry about your priorities. A man who would publicly associate with a former prostitute shows poor judgment. What is next? Gambling? Drinking?" Foster leaned back in his chair. "I want to call in your loan, Vincent. The full amount due in 60 days. Vincent's stomach dropped. "You cannot do that without cause." "We have a contract. Read the fine print. The bank can call in any loan it deems at risk. I deem yours at risk due to questions about your character and judgment." Foster smiled without warmth. "Unless, of course, you reconsider your relationship with Miss Finch. Break things off publicly, and I will be satisfied that your judgment has returned to normal. You are blackmailing me. I am protecting the bank's interests. The choice is yours, your ranch or the woman. You have 60 days to decide." Vincent walked out of the bank in a daze. The amount Foster was demanding was over $8,000. He had nothing close to that in savings. He could sell his stock and equipment, but not for enough and not in 60 days. If Foster called in the loan, Vincent would lose everything his father had built, everything he had worked for. Unless he gave up Zara, he found her in the saloon's kitchen helping Dorothy prepare lunch. She looked up with a smile that faded when she saw his face. "What happened?" Vincent told her everything. As he spoke, he watched the color drain from Zara's face. When he finished, she was pale and trembling. "Then you have to do it," she said quietly. "You have to break things off with me." "What? No, I am not doing that. Vincent, you will lose your ranch, everything you have worked for. I cannot let that happen." "You are not letting anything happen. Foster is doing this, not you, and I am not giving in to his blackmail." Vincent took her hands, willing her to understand. "I meant what I said. I love you. I am not walking away." "Then you are a fool." Tears spilled down Zara's cheeks. "That ranch is your life, your father's legacy. You cannot throw it away for me. I am not throwing it away. I am fighting for what matters, and you matter more than land or buildings or anything else." Vincent pulled her close, feeling her sob against his chest. "We will find another way." "There is no other way," Zara said into his shirt. "No bank will give you a loan to pay off Foster. No one will help us once they know why he called it in. We are trapped." Dorothy had listened to the whole exchange in silence. Now she spoke up. "Maybe not. There might be someone who could help." Both Vincent and Zara turned to look at her. Dorothy wiped her hands on her apron, her expression thoughtful. 3 years ago, a man named Marcus Gideon came through town. He was a banker from San Francisco looking to expand his business into Nevada. We got to talking, and I told him about Winnemucca, about the ranches and mines and opportunities here. He said if I ever heard of solid business propositions needing funding to write to him. I have his address somewhere. "Why would a San Francisco banker help me?" Vincent asked. "Because he does business based on numbers and facts, not small-town grudges. If your ranch is profitable and you have a solid repayment plan, he might give you the loan to pay off Foster. At least it is worth trying." Hope flickered in Vincent's chest. "You really think he would consider it?" "I think he would listen to a proposal. That is more than Foster is willing to do." Dorothy went to her office and returned with an address written in neat script. "Write to him. Explain the situation. The worst he can say is no." That evening, Vincent sat at his kitchen table and composed a letter explaining his situation, including detailed financial records of his horse training business and projected earnings. He did not mention Zara or why Foster had called in the loan, focusing strictly on the business case. He posted the letter the next morning with no idea if it would help. The wait was agonizing. While they hoped for a response, Vincent continued working his ranch and courting Zara as publicly as before. If anything, Foster's blackmail attempt made him more determined. Several townspeople approached him to express concern about his choice, but he shut down every conversation with polite firmness. "People mean well," he told Zara one evening as they sat by the river. "But they do not understand. They see your past and think that is all you are. They do not see what I see." "What do you see?" Zara asked softly. "I see a survivor, someone who got knocked down by life and got back up anyway. I see someone who works hard and treats people with kindness even when they do not deserve it. I see the woman I want to spend my life with." Vincent touched her cheek. "I see my future." Zara leaned into his touch, blinking back tears. "I do not deserve you. You deserve everything good this world has to offer. I just hope I am good enough for you." 2 weeks after sending the letter, Vincent received a response. Marcus Gideon was interested and wanted detailed financial projections for the next 5 years, current inventory, and an assessment of the ranch's land value. Vincent worked day and night to compile everything, and Zara helped, staying up late to make neat copies of his records in her careful handwriting. "You have built something really impressive," she said as they worked through his ledgers. "Your business has grown every year. Any reasonable person would see you are a good investment. I hope Gideon is a reasonable person." The second letter went out and they waited again. Vincent was acutely aware of time passing. They had 40 days left before the loan came due, then 35, then 30. At 25 days, a telegram arrived. Gideon wanted to visit the ranch in person to conduct his assessment. He would arrive in 1 week. Vincent threw himself into preparations, making sure every aspect of his operation looked professional and well run. He cleaned the barn until it gleamed, organized his equipment, and had Tom and Jimmy repair fences and buildings. When Gideon's stage arrived, Vincent met it personally. Marcus Gideon was a compact man in his 50s with sharp eyes and an air of brisk efficiency. He shook Vincent's hand firmly and got straight to business. Show me everything. I want to see your operation, meet your horses, talk to your employees, and review your books in detail. Vincent did exactly that, walking Gideon through every aspect of his horse training business. He demonstrated his methods with several horses in various stages of training, explained his selection criteria, and showed the contracts he had secured for future deliveries. Tom and Jimmy answered Gideon's questions about working conditions and pay honestly. After 2 hours, they returned to Vincent's house where the financial records waited. Gideon studied them in silence, making occasional notes. Finally, he looked up. Your operation is sound. Your profit margins are good, and your growth trajectory is sustainable. Under normal circumstances, I would have no hesitation about offering you a loan. Vincent's heart sank at the phrase normal circumstances. But I need to understand why Foster is calling in your loan. That is unusual behavior for a bank, and it suggests there is something you have not told me. I need complete honesty, Mr. Rawley. What is really going on? Vincent had known this moment would come. He took a deep breath and told the truth. I am in love with a woman the town disapproves of because of her past. Foster's son behaved inappropriately toward her. I intervened. Foster is using the loan to pressure me into ending the relationship. I see. What is this woman's name? Zara Finch. She works at Dorothy's saloon in town. Gideon studied him thoughtfully. Are your intentions toward Miss Finch honorable? Completely. I plan to marry her if she will have me. And this is worth losing your ranch. She is worth anything. Vincent met the banker's eyes steadily. I know that sounds foolish from a business perspective, but some things matter more than money. A slow smile crossed Gideon's face. Actually, from a business perspective, it tells me you are a man of conviction who keeps his word once given. Those are excellent qualities in a borrower. He extended his hand. I will provide the loan to pay off Foster. The terms will be comparable to what you have now, with a 10-year repayment schedule at 6% interest. I will have the papers drawn up and sent within the week. Vincent shook his hand, almost unable to believe it. Thank you. You have no idea what this means. I think I do. I was young once and in love with a woman my family disapproved of. I married her anyway, and we have been happy for 30 years. Gideon gathered his papers. Give my regards to Miss Finch, and tell her not to let small-minded people define her worth. 1 week later, Vincent walked into Foster's bank with a certified draft for the full loan amount, drawn on Gideon's San Francisco bank. He presented it to Foster without a word and watched the older man's face turn purple with impotent rage. You found another bank, Foster said flatly. I did. Our business is concluded. Good day. Vincent walked out feeling lighter than he had in weeks. He went straight to the saloon where Zara was serving lunch. When she saw his face, she nearly dropped the tray she was carrying. Did it work? It worked. The loan is paid. The ranch is secure. We are free. Vincent picked her up and spun her around, not caring who saw. We are really free. Zara laughed and cried at the same time, clinging to him. The saloon erupted in applause. Even some of the customers who had been cold to Zara seemed caught up in the moment, their faces softening at the obvious joy between the young couple. Dorothy emerged from the kitchen with tears in her eyes. I am so happy for you both. I cannot thank you enough, Vincent said, setting Zara down but keeping his arm around her waist. Your connection to Gideon saved us. You saved yourselves. You just needed a little help. Dorothy smiled. So when is the wedding? Vincent looked at Zara. That depends. I have asked this woman to marry me several times, but she keeps telling me to wait and think about it. I have thought about it. I have fought for it. Now I am asking one more time in front of witnesses. He took both her hands. Zara Finch, will you marry me? Zara looked at him with shining eyes. "Yes, yes, I will marry you." The saloon erupted in cheers again. Vincent pulled her close and kissed her thoroughly, sealing the promise in front of the whole town. When they finally broke apart, Zara was flushed and laughing. "So we are really doing this," she said. "Getting married despite everything. Despite nothing, because of everything. Because I love you and you love me, and that is all that matters." Vincent grinned. "Unless you are having second thoughts, never." Zara leaned up and kissed him again. "I am going to marry you, Vincent Rawley, and spend the rest of my life making you happy." "Too late. You already make me happy. Everything else is just a bonus." Planning the wedding proved complicated. The minister's wife made it clear that the church was not available for the ceremony, and most of the town's respectable women refused to attend or help with preparations. But Dorothy rallied support from the business owners who appreciated Vincent's integrity and Zara's hard work. The owner of the Grand Hotel offered his dining room for the reception. A widow who ran a dressmaking shop agreed to make Zara's dress. Slowly, a wedding came together. Vincent was not deterred by the cold shoulders from some quarters. He invited everyone he did business with, making it clear that attendance was not mandatory, but would be noted. Several ranchers who depended on his horse training services accepted immediately, bringing their families. Others declined but sent gifts, perhaps hedging their bets. The most surprising support came from an unexpected source. 3 days before the wedding, a distinguished couple in an expensive carriage arrived at Dorothy's saloon asking for Zara. The man who emerged was in his 60s, well-dressed and grave. Zara recognized him immediately and went pale. "Mr. Thornton," she said quietly, "I did not expect to see you here. I heard through business connections that you were getting married. My wife and I wanted to come offer our congratulations." Thornton gestured to the elegant woman beside him. "This is Eleanor, my wife." Eleanor Thornton approached and took Zara's hands warmly. "My husband told me how he helped you leave San Francisco. I am so glad you have found happiness. We would be honored to attend your wedding if you will have us." Zara's eyes filled with tears. "You do not have to do this." "I know it might be uncomfortable." "Nonsense. We are proud to support you." Eleanor glanced at Vincent, who had emerged from the saloon kitchen. "Is this your young man?" Vincent introduced himself, and they talked for several minutes. The Thorntons explained they were in Nevada on business and would stay through the wedding. Their presence, as wealthy and respectable visitors from San Francisco, would lend Zara credibility she desperately needed. "Why are you being so kind?" Zara asked when the Thorntons had gone to their hotel. Vincent pulled her close. "Because good people recognize good people. The Thorntons see what I see, someone worthy of respect and happiness." The wedding took place on a clear January morning in 1879. The sky was brilliant blue, and though the air was cold, someone had set up a wood stove in the Grand Hotel's dining room to keep the space warm. Zara wore a simple cream-colored dress with lace at the collar and cuffs, and Dorothy had arranged her hair in an elegant style that made her look like a princess. Vincent waited at the front of the room in his best suit, his hair trimmed and face clean-shaven. When Zara appeared in the doorway, his breath caught. She was beautiful, but more than that, she was his. Against all odds, despite everything the world had thrown at them, she was about to become his wife. Since the minister's wife had barred the church, they had found a traveling preacher who agreed to perform the ceremony. He was an older man with kind eyes who asked no questions about Zara's past, only about their commitment to each other. The room was perhaps half full. Some of Vincent's business associates had come, as well as several ranch families who respected his work. Tom and Jimmy sat in the front row, grinning proudly. The Thorntons sat on Zara's side, elegant and dignified. Dorothy stood as Zara's attendant, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. But what mattered was not who came. What mattered was Vincent's steady gaze as Zara walked toward him, the way his hand clasped hers firmly when she reached his side, and the emotion in his voice as he spoke his vows. "I promise to love you, honor you, and stand beside you through whatever comes. You are my partner, my equal, and my heart. I will spend every day proving you made the right choice in choosing me." Zara's voice shook as she spoke her own vows. "I promise to love you with everything I am. You saw past my mistakes and believed in who I could be. I will work every day to be worthy of your faith. You are my home and my future, and I will thank God for you every morning of my life." When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Vincent kissed her with such tenderness that several people in the audience sniffled. They walked back down the aisle together, united against whatever the world might say. The reception was small but warm. Dorothy had prepared a feast, and someone had brought a fiddle for dancing. Vincent and Zara shared the first dance, neither of them particularly skilled but both too happy to care. They swayed together as friends and supporters clapped and cheered. "We did it," Zara whispered against Vincent's shoulder. "We are married. We are. And tomorrow we start our life together." Vincent pulled back to look at her. "I love you, Mrs. Rawley. I love you too." Zara smiled, finally letting herself believe this was real and permanent. "Where are we going tonight?" "I booked us the best room at the Grand Hotel. Tomorrow we will head to the ranch, but tonight we are celebrating." Vincent kissed her again, not caring who saw. "Just you and me and the beginning of everything." The months following the wedding brought gradual change to Winnemucca's attitude toward the Rawleys. Vincent's business continued to thrive, and his reputation for fair dealing was unassailable. Zara worked alongside Dorothy at the saloon for a few more months before deciding to focus on building a life at the ranch. Some townspeople remained cold, but others slowly warmed as they saw the obvious devotion between husband and wife. The breakthrough came unexpectedly in April when Mrs. Patterson's prize mare developed a severe limp. The horse was valuable breeding stock, and no one in the area could diagnose the problem. Desperate, Mrs. Patterson swallowed her pride and brought the mare to Vincent. He spent 2 hours examining the animal before discovering a stone bruise that had become infected. He treated it carefully, keeping the mare at his ranch for a week until she recovered fully. When he returned the horse sound and healthy, Mrs. Patterson offered payment. "Just pay my normal boarding fee," Vincent said. "The treatment is no charge. But you spent so much time, the horse needed help. That is enough." Vincent's voice was firm but polite. Mrs. Patterson studied him for a long moment. "You are a good man, Mr. Rawley. Your father would be proud. And your wife is fortunate to have you." It was not an apology or an acceptance of Zara, but it was an acknowledgement. Vincent took it as progress. More progress came when Dorothy fell ill in May with a respiratory infection that left her bedridden for 3 weeks. Zara immediately stepped in to run the saloon, working from dawn until midnight to keep everything operating smoothly. The customers, who had gradually accepted her presence, were surprised by her competence and dedication. When Dorothy recovered, she found the business running better than ever. "You have a gift for this," Dorothy said, reviewing the accounts. "Everything is organized and the profits are up. I just did what needed doing." Zara handed her a cup of tea. "Though I am glad you are back. I missed having you there." "I have been thinking," Dorothy said slowly. "I am not getting any younger and I have no family to leave this place to. How would you and Vincent feel about becoming partners? You could buy in gradually and eventually the saloon would be yours." Zara was stunned. "Dorothy, that is incredibly generous, but we should discuss it with Vincent." They did discuss it, late into the night at the ranch house. Vincent saw the spark of excitement in Zara's eyes as she described the possibility. "You want this," he said. "I do. Dorothy has been so good to me and I love the work. The saloon could be something we build together, a business for our future, but only if you are comfortable with it." Vincent thought about his mother, who had been an equal partner in his father's horse training business. He thought about how competent and confident Zara had become. "Then we should do it. We will have to manage carefully to afford the buy-in, but we can make it work." Over the next year, the Rawleys slowly bought into Dorothy's saloon while maintaining Vincent's horse training business. It meant long hours for both of them, but they worked well together. Zara managed the saloon's daily operations while Vincent focused on his horses, and on Sundays, they would sit together and review accounts, making decisions as partners. The town watched their success with grudging respect. Even the most rigid critics had to acknowledge that the Rawleys were hardworking, honest, and devoted to each other. Gradually, invitations began arriving. A church social in September, a barn dance in October. By the time winter arrived, Zara was no longer actively shunned, though she would never be fully embraced by the older generation. But the younger people, especially young women who saw in Zara a woman who had survived and thrived despite hardship, began to seek her out. A girl whose parents wanted to force her into an unwanted marriage came to Zara for advice. A young widow struggling to support her children found work at the saloon through Zara's help. Slowly, quietly, Zara became someone women turned to when they needed understanding without judgment. "You are making a difference," Vincent told her one evening as they sat on their porch watching the sunset. "I see it in how people look at you now. You have earned their respect through who you are, not despite your past, but because of it. You survived and became stronger, and that means something to people facing their own struggles. I just try to help where I can." Zara leaned against his shoulder. "I remember what it felt like to have no one. If I can make sure other women do not feel that way, then maybe something good came from the bad." In the spring of 1880, Zara discovered she was pregnant. The news brought joy mixed with fear. She worried about what it would mean to raise a child in a town that still harbored judgment about her past. But Vincent was elated, his hands gentle as he placed them on her still flat stomach. "We are going to have a baby," he kept saying, wonder in his voice. "A son or daughter. Someone to love and teach and raise together." "Are you sure we are ready?" Zara asked. "No one is ever ready, but we will figure it out together like we figure out everything else." Vincent kissed her forehead. "This child will be loved and wanted. That is what matters." The pregnancy progressed smoothly through the summer. Zara continued working at the saloon until she grew too tired, then helped with bookkeeping from home. Dorothy was thrilled at the prospect of a baby, already knitting blankets and offering advice. Vincent was protective to the point of being overbearing, worrying about everything from Zara lifting heavy objects to her riding horses. She found his concern endearing and exasperating in equal measure. "I am pregnant, not made of glass," she told him after he insisted she stop climbing stairs unnecessarily. "I know, but you are carrying something precious, and I want to make sure nothing happens to either of you." Vincent's hand rested on her expanding belly, feeling the baby kick. "This is our future right here." Their son was born on a cold December night, arriving 2 weeks early and with considerable fuss. Vincent paced the house while the midwife worked, and when he finally heard the baby's first cry, he burst into tears of relief and joy. The midwife brought him in to meet his son, a red-faced infant with a surprisingly loud voice. "He is perfect," Vincent breathed, carefully taking the baby. "Zara, he is absolutely perfect." Zara, exhausted but glowing, watched her husband cradle their son. What should we name him? They had discussed names for months but never decided. Now, looking at the baby's tiny face, Vincent knew. Daniel, after my father. Daniel James Rawley. Daniel, Zara repeated, testing the name. It is perfect. Welcome, Daniel. The arrival of baby Daniel softened more hearts in Winnemucca. Even women who had avoided Zara found themselves cooing over the baby when they encountered the family in town. It was hard to maintain righteous disapproval in the face of such obvious parental devotion. Vincent carried Daniel everywhere, showing him off with unabashed pride. The baby became a fixture at both the saloon, where Dorothy kept a cradle behind the bar, and at the ranch, where Tom and Jimmy took turns entertaining him between chores. That boy is going to be spoiled rotten, Dorothy observed as she watched Vincent play with 6-month-old Daniel. Probably, Vincent agreed cheerfully, making faces that sent the baby into gales of laughter. But he is also going to know he is loved. There are worse things. The years that followed brought stability and growth. Vincent's horse training business expanded until he needed to hire additional hands. Zara and Vincent completed their purchase of the saloon when Dorothy decided to retire in 1883, and they renamed it Rawley's. They kept Dorothy's high standards, maintaining it as a respectable establishment that served good food and honest drinks with no tolerance for trouble. They added 2 more children to their family. A daughter, Lily, born in 1882 with Zara's auburn hair and Vincent's green eyes. And another son, Thomas, born in 1885, who was quiet where Daniel was boisterous but showed an early gift for understanding animals like his father. The ranch house expanded to accommodate their growing family. Vincent built additional rooms and a larger porch where they spent summer evenings watching the children play. The place rang with laughter and life, everything Vincent's solitary childhood home had lacked, and everything he had dreamed of creating. Zara sometimes could not believe this was her life. She would watch Vincent teaching Daniel to ride or see Lily helping at the saloon or hold baby Thomas while he slept, and wonder how she had gotten here. The path from that desperate girl in San Francisco to this contented woman surrounded by love seemed impossible, yet here she was. In 1887, when Daniel was 7, he came home from school upset. Zara found him in the barn, his face tear-streaked and angry. "What happened, sweetheart?" She sat beside him on the hay bale. "Jimmy Thompson said his mama said you used to be a bad woman. He said I have a bad mama and I should be ashamed." Daniel's voice shook with confusion and hurt. What did he mean? Zara's heart clenched. She had known this conversation would come eventually, but she had hoped for more time. She took a breath and chose her words carefully. "Before I met your father, I had a very hard life. My parents died when I was young, and I had to do things I am not proud of to survive. Some people in this town remember that time and they judge me for it. They think those mistakes define who I am. But they do not," Daniel said fiercely. "You are my mama. You are good and nice and you help people." "Thank you, baby. But the truth is, people are complicated. I made choices I wish I had not had to make, but they were the only choices I could see at the time. I am not perfect, but I have tried very hard to be a good person and a good mother. What matters is not what I was, but who I am now and who I try to be every day." Daniel processed this, his young face serious. "Papa loves you." "Yes, he does, very much, and I love him. And we both love you and Lily and Thomas more than anything in the world. Then I do not care what Jimmy Thompson says. His mama is mean anyway." Daniel hugged her tightly. "You are the best mama." Zara held her son, blinking back tears. Vincent found them there later and Daniel told him what had happened. Vincent's jaw tightened. I will speak to the Thompsons. No, Zara said quickly. That will only make it worse. Daniel handled it well. He knows the truth now, or part of it. That is enough. It is not fair that he has to defend you when you did nothing wrong. I did plenty wrong, Vincent. I just did my best with impossible circumstances. And our children should know that people make mistakes and survive them and build better lives. That is not a bad lesson. Vincent pulled them both into an embrace. You are stronger than I will ever be. No, we are strong together. That is what makes it work. As their children grew, the Rawleys became an integral part of Winnemucca's community. Vincent served on the town council, advocating for better schools and infrastructure. Zara organized fundraisers for families in need and mentored young women facing difficult choices. Their saloon became a community gathering place where everyone was welcome regardless of background. The turning point in public opinion came in 1890, when a fire broke out at the general store. Zara saw the smoke from the saloon and immediately organized a bucket brigade. She ran into the burning building to help the storekeeper's wife and 2 children escape, suffering burns on her arms in the process. Vincent arrived to find her being treated by the doctor, her arms wrapped in bandages, but her focus on making sure everyone else was safe. The storekeeper, the same man who had turned Zara away when she first arrived in Winnemucca 12 years earlier, approached with tears streaming down his face. You saved my family. You could have been killed. I just did what anyone would do, Zara said. No. Not everyone would risk themselves for people who have not been kind to them. I owe you my family's lives, and I owe you an apology for how I treated you all those years ago. I was wrong about you, Mrs. Rawley. Dead wrong. The incident became legendary in Winnemucca. The story of Zara's bravery spread through the town and beyond, and the last vestiges of public judgment finally crumbled. The minister who had barred her from the church personally invited the family to services. The women who had shunned her apologized, some gracefully and others awkwardly, but all sincerely. You have won, Dorothy told her as they sat together in the saloon Zara now owned. Dorothy was older now, her hair white and her movements slower, but her eyes were still sharp. I did not win anything. I just lived my life and tried to be good. Zara adjusted the bandages on her healing arms. That is exactly how you won. You proved that what matters is not where you start, but who you become. This town sees that now. Vincent certainly saw it. He looked at his wife with wonder and pride, marveling at how she had transformed from a frightened young woman with nowhere to go into a pillar of the community who people turned to in crisis. She had survived judgment and isolation and emerged stronger, kinder, and more compassionate than anyone had a right to expect. I am in awe of you, he told her one night as they sat on their porch, the children asleep inside and the stars brilliant overhead. Do not be. I am just living the life you made possible. Zara squeezed his hand. No, I opened a door, but you walked through it. You built this life, earned this respect, raised our children. All I did was love you and stand beside you. That was everything, Zara said softly. When the whole town rejected me, you saw something worth fighting for. You gave me hope when I had none. You showed me I deserved happiness even when I could not see it myself. Do not discount what you did, Vincent. You saved me. Then we saved each other. Because I was just going through the motions before I met you. Running the ranch, making a living but not really living. You gave me purpose and joy and a family. You made me better than I was. They sat in comfortable silence, hands linked, looking out at the land they had built their life upon. The ranch sprawled around them, prosperous and peaceful. In town, their saloon thrived under their joint management. Their children slept safely inside, loved and secure. Everything they had fought for, everything they had risked, had paid off in ways neither could have imagined that day. Zara arrived on the stagecoach with nothing but a carpetbag and fading hope. The years continued their steady march. Daniel grew into a young man with his father's way with horses and his mother's compassionate heart. He took over more of the ranch work, allowing Vincent to slow down as he reached his 50s. Lily became a teacher, determined to help children the way her mother had been helped. Thomas proved to be a gifted horse trainer, even better than his father, and eventually started his own business. Vincent and Zara watched their children thrive with profound satisfaction. They had given them a stable, loving home where they were taught that people were more than their worst moments, that redemption was possible, and that love could overcome almost anything. In 1895, Dorothy passed away peacefully in her sleep at the age of 72. The funeral was attended by nearly everyone in Winnemucca, a testament to the lives she had touched. Vincent and Zara mourned her deeply, knowing their life together would not have been possible without her initial kindness. "She took a chance on me when no one else would," Zara said at the graveside. "She gave me work and dignity and hope. I will never forget that." They placed a bench in the saloon in Dorothy's memory, with a plaque reading, "Dorothy Harper, she saw the best in everyone." It became a gathering place where lonely travelers and troubled souls could sit, and know someone would listen without judgment, keeping alive the spirit Dorothy had embodied. As the new century approached, Vincent and Zara found themselves in the rare position of being considered town elders. They were consulted on business disputes, asked to sponsor new arrivals, and invited to speak at community events. The story of their courtship and marriage had become local legend, told and retold until it took on mythic proportions. "They make us sound more heroic than we were," Vincent said with amusement after overhearing a dramatized version at the general store. "Maybe people need the story more than they need the truth," Zara replied. "If our experience gives hope to someone facing their own struggles, I do not mind the embellishment." In 1900, at the turn of the century, the town organized a celebration to welcome the new era. Vincent and Zara attended with their children and growing number of grandchildren. Daniel had married a rancher's daughter and already had 2 children. Lily's wedding was planned for the summer. Thomas was courting the doctor's daughter, much to everyone's delight. As fireworks lit up the Nevada sky, Vincent pulled Zara close. They were both in their late 40s now, their hair showing gray and their faces lined by years of sun and wind and laughter. But when Vincent looked at his wife, he still saw the brave young woman who had stepped off the stagecoach with hope and determination in her eyes. "22 years," he said. 22 years since I walked into that saloon and met you. Best decision you ever made," Zara teased. "Absolutely. Second best was convincing you to marry me." "You did not have to convince me. I was already in love with you, even when I was afraid to admit it." Zara leaned her head on his shoulder. "Thank you for not giving up on me, on us. Never crossed my mind. From the moment I saw you, I knew you were important. Took me a while to realize you were everything, but once I did, there was no going back." Vincent kissed the top of her head. "I would do it all again, every fight, every struggle, every moment of doubt, because it led here to this life with you." "Me too," Zara whispered. "Every second was worth it." They watched the fireworks paint the sky in brilliant colors, surrounded by family and community. The town that had rejected Zara had become her home. The people who had judged her had become her neighbors and friends. The future she could not imagine had unfolded more beautifully than any dream. Vincent Rawley had seen past her mistakes to her potential. He had fought for their love when everyone else said it was foolish. He had proven that redemption was possible, that second chances could lead to extraordinary happiness. and that love built on mutual respect and devotion could weather any storm. And Zara Finch Rawley had proven that a woman's past did not have to define her future. That courage and hard work could overcome judgment. That the rejected could become the respected, the outcast could become the beloved, and hope could flourish even in the harshest desert. Together they had built a legacy that would echo through generations. Their children and grandchildren would tell stories about the cowboy who defied his town, and the woman he loved who proved them all wrong. They would speak of true love that conquered prejudice, of second chances that became first-rate lives, and of two people who found each other at exactly the right moment and held on through everything. As the new century dawned and the celebration continued around them, Vincent and Zara stood hand in hand, their love story complete, but their life together still unfolding. They had decades ahead of them still, years to watch their grandchildren grow, to continue building their businesses, to serve their community, and to love each other with the deep, abiding devotion that comes from fighting together and winning. The Wild West was changing, becoming more civilized and settled. But the values that had shaped Vincent and Zara's relationship, courage, loyalty, compassion, and unwavering commitment, remained timeless. They had lived those values every day of their marriage, and in doing so, had transformed not just their own lives but their entire community. Their story became a touchstone for Winnemucca, a reminder that everyone deserves a second chance, that love is stronger than judgment, and that the measure of a person is not where they start but who they become. Parents told it to their children to teach compassion. Young couples drew inspiration from it when facing their own obstacles. The town itself became a little more forgiving, a little more willing to see past first impressions, because of what Vincent and Zara had proven possible. In the end, theirs was a simple story told 1,000 different ways across the American West. A story of a woman seeking redemption and a man brave enough to help her find it. A story of love that refused to be denied despite all the obstacles thrown in its path. A story of two hearts that recognized each other and held on through everything the world could throw at them. The town had rejected Zara's past, but Vincent Rawley had seen her future and fought for her love. And together, they had built something beautiful that would endure long after they were gone, a family, a legacy, and proof that love could indeed conquer all. As midnight struck and the new century officially began, Vincent turned to Zara and spoke the same words he had spoken on their wedding day 2 decades earlier. "I love you, Mrs. Rawley, today, tomorrow, and every day after." Zara smiled, her eyes bright with happy tears. "And I love you, Mr. Rawley, forever and always." They kissed as fireworks exploded overhead, celebrating not just a new century but a love story that had defied all odds and emerged victorious. Their journey from that first meeting in a dusty saloon to this moment of perfect contentment had been long and difficult, but neither would change a single moment. Every trial had strengthened them. Every obstacle overcome had deepened their bond. Every person who had doubted them had been proven wrong. The Wild West era was ending, giving way to a more modern world. But the love between Vincent and Zara Rawley would endure, a testament to the power of seeing beyond appearances, the importance of fighting for what matters, and the extraordinary things that can happen when two people commit to building a life together against all odds. Their story was complete, their happy ending secured, their legacy assured. And as they walked home through the celebrating town, surrounded by children and grandchildren and friends who loved them, they knew they had succeeded in the only way that truly mattered. They had built a life of meaning, raised a family with love, and proven that the rejected could become the celebrated, the judged could become the respected, and true love could overcome anything the world threw at it. The town of Winnemucca, Nevada would remember them for generations, not just as successful business owners or respected citizens, but as the couple who had shown everyone that redemption was possible, that second chances could lead to first-rate lives, and that love, real, committed, courageous love, could conquer absolutely everything. And they lived happily ever after, exactly as they deserved.